Ancient Demon Lord Rimuru by Mertinator1905. 24. Double Agent. The angels created by Veldanava didn't have an ego, they were obedient servants. The higher angels called seraphim posed an exception amongst the angels. Although it took a long time, they gained an ego and a will themselves. Dino was also one of those seraphim. He was tasked by Veldanava to act as an overseer over the cardinal world. Descending down to the earth, he started his journey along with his two friends, Pico and Gracia. The weak ego he had developed grew stronger, and he started wandering around the world, fascinated by the world Veldanava had created. At first, the three of them mixed themselves amongst the humans and learned about their habits and their different cultures. Pico and Gracia were especially fond by the new delicacies they encountered and learned everything really fast. Dino, although he found this world interesting, was nevertheless not fond of leaving Veldanava's side. The Seraphim had realized that Veldanava lost a big amount of power over the last few millennia, and after Milam's birth, Veldanava was comparable to a human being. Deep inside, he feared for the well-being of his creator, but knew that nobody would dare to hurt Veldanava and calmed himself. But he was proven wrong. Veldanava was killed by the same humans he used to love and treasure. Overflowed with anger and hatred, he instantly flew towards the human nation, where Veldanava and Lucia were killed. High up in the air, he looked at the city below him in disgust, before erasing it from existence. Every human, either innocent or guilty, were slain down by Dino, which resulted in his fall as an angel. The humans were dead, and the kingdom erased from the surface, but nevertheless Dino didn't feel any satisfaction. In his depression, the now fallen angel also abandoned his duties as an overseer and passed many years in sorrow, which resulted in him becoming lazy. Many years passed and nothing changed for Dino, until one day Feldway contacted Dino. He received another task, which is to infiltrate the demon lords under Guy Crimson to gather information and break them apart from the inside when time arrives. Although Dino wanted to know what the purpose of meddling with Guy Crimson, who was appointed as a mediator by Veldanava, he knew Feldway well enough and knew how futile it was to pressure him was, so he accepted. If I remember correctly, he should be in the frozen continent with Velzard-sama. But how am I going to convince him? Guy Crimson isn't stupid to allow an angel, fallen or not, to join his group. Dino, between his sleeps, pondered on a way to accept him to their ranks. He even consulted his friends Pico and Gracia, who came up with a good enough plan. Why don't you say you have nowhere else to go? Like you asking for a shelter would be believable, right? Pico suggested, and Gracia agreed with a firm nod. How rude, if you say it like that, it sounds like I'm a beggar or something. Dino answered. Any better idea? Gracia asked. No. Dino said, knowing that this would be the best option. See, just don't fall asleep during your talks. Pico said, annoyed, as Dino was on the verge of sleeping again. Gracia punched him in the guts to wake him up and pressured him to leave and get it over with. And with that, Dino made his way to the frozen continent to meet the leader of the demon lords. Just to know if I understood it correctly. A fallen angel wants to join us, the demon lords. Guy asked Dino, skeptical. Yes, Gaizen. And the reason for that? You see, after Veldanava-sama's death, I erased the kingdom who was responsible for his death, and since then, I don't know what to do. I became fallen and have nowhere to return. Although it sounded suspicious, Guy thought about it. To him, it meant another pawn to play with, and a strong one at that. But he also knew that if he would accept him here without asking Rimuru first, he would face consequences later. Guy had always thought Velzard was the scariest one when angry, but during his stay in the Palace of White Ice, he came to know that an angry Rimuru was even enough to scare Velgrind and Velzard. Guy. He was also scared when Rimuru was enraged, although it didn't happen that often. He quickly contacted Rimuru and told him about Dino. Alright, I'm coming, Rimuru. Let's see Dino, if you can convince him. Guy thought and put on an evil smile. Dino, who saw this, started to sweat heavily. Gaizen. You have to wait for a bit. The person who will decide your fate will arrive soon. Dino, although looking sleepy on the outside, panicked inside. He had thought that convincing Guy was enough, as he was the leader. But hearing that there is someone else who will decide on that scared him. Calm down, Dino, you can do it. Should I pretend to be asleep and look sleepy? Maybe that will convince them. If I act all lazy, they will brush their suspicions of me planning something away. That's the only option anyway. After making his mind up, Dino laid his on his arms, which were placed on the table, and pretended to be asleep. He closed his eyes and waited for the mysterious person to arrive. While he was waiting, his impatience grew more and more. It has been 20 minutes and the person still has to show up. Suddenly, he heard footsteps and someone entered the room. His first thoughts were that it must be a servant, as he couldn't feel any aura, but then it doomed on him. He couldn't feel any aura nor magicals from this person, not even a little bit. Not even Veldanava was able to completely erase his presence, but whoever just entered the room was able to do it. He pressed his eyelids together to not fall into temptation to open them to see who it was, and pretended to be deep asleep. But unbeknownst to him, that was a mistake. A huge wave of magicals and killing intent were directed at Dino, who was pretending to be asleep. The sudden pressure blew Dino away, and he crashed into a wall. He quickly stood up and looked at the one responsible for all of this. But when he saw her, his jaw dropped. Beautiful. That was the first thought that crossed Dino's mind. First you make me come all the way here, and then you pretend to be asleep. That's rude, you know. The blue-haired maiden asked. But there was no answer from Dino. He was still captivated by the beauty of this mysterious individual, his mouth still wide open. I hate to bring it to you, but I don't swing that way. I'm a guy, so stop staring like that if you don't want to be blown away. Rimuru said, with a tick mark on his forehead. Why you're a no, I'm sorry, I lost my composure for a moment. Dino quickly apologized and took his seat again. So, why is an angel here, demanding to join us? Rimuru asked, and unlike Guy, he didn't hide his suspicion. I have no. Quit the nonsense. Your two friends are doing well, right? I bet you could just join them and live a peaceful life. Why do you want to join us instead? Rimuru asked. This question shocked Dino to the core. Not only did he see through his lies, but he also knew about Pico and Gracia. You're not here as a spy for that Feldway, are you, Dino-kun? Rimuru further horrified Dino, who paled furthermore after this question. Master, we know where Feldway's original body is, shouldn't we just get rid of him and save us the troubles? Although he is annoying, it's still too early for him to die. We'll kill him when the right time arrives. Dino was still petrified. Although he wanted to deny it, his expression already answered Rimuru's question for him. Feldway. You know him, Rimuru? Guy asked. Not really, but I have heard of him. I assume that's a yes, Dino. Rimuru asked Dino again. Although Dino wanted to deny it, he knew that it was futile. Rimuru already knew about everything. So he decided to be honest and answer the question. Yes. Alright, I accept, you're free to join us. Rimuru suddenly declared. Dino and even Guy were dumbfounded. Oi Rimuru, why let him join if he is a spy? Guy asked. Dino wanted to ask the same question, but he didn't dare to voice his opinion. Nevertheless, it didn't make sense at all for him. Simple, he will be our spy from now on. Through him, we can simply deliver false information and mislead Feldway, you know. Rimuru answered. He will work for us, huh? Guy asked, seemingly convinced by Rimuru's suggestion. While the two were discussing, Dino was dumbfounded. He felt uneasy as they demanded from him to betray Feldway and the others. Rimuru, who saw the uneasy expression on Dino's face, spoke up again. You'll do it right, Dino-kun? He asked with a menacing smile. Yes, I'll do it. Dino stuttered and gave his approval, although still feeling uneasy. And if you betray us, you know what will happen, right? Rimuru asked again, and Dino nodded. Rimuru quickly pulled a sheet of paper out of thin air and started writing something, before putting it in an envelope and putting a seal on it. Take this and go to Dagruel. He will know what to do once he reads this. Rimuru said and gave Dino the envelope. Yes, I'll be on my way then. Dino said and left the room. Dagruel. What did you write there? Guy asked, curious. Nothing important. Just asked him if he could babysit for a while for that sleepyhead. Sorry Dagruel, this time it's my turn to send the problem children your way. Rimuru thought to himself. If you say so. Guy said, and they both stood up to continue their daily routines.